What if I told you that another version of you, a version that exists in a parallel universe, is trying to communicate? Perhaps through a dream that felt more real than it should have, a déjà vu that sent shivers down your spine, or an event so unlikely that it felt like a glitch in the matrix of reality. We live our lives believing that reality is one and linear, but what if there were multiple versions of ourselves, living slightly different lives in parallel dimensions? What if, in moments of great need or deep connection, these versions tried to send you messages, warnings, or even fragments of knowledge? Today we'll explore the signs that a parallel version of you is trying to communicate. We'll look at the clues hidden in dreams, synchronicities, and strange sensations that many overlook. Prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown because, after today, you'll never see reality the same way again. The idea of parallel realities is not new. From ancient mystical traditions to modern quantum physics, this possibility has fascinated humanity. In the esoteric traditions of Hinduism, the Vedas speak of multiple planes of existence, where different versions of the self can coexist simultaneously. The concept of Maya, the illusion of reality, suggests that what we perceive as the physical world is merely a veil, hiding a complex web of interconnected dimensions. In shamanism, many accounts of spiritual journeys speak of encounters with alternate selves, beings who share the same essence but inhabit different levels of existence. Shamans believe that in altered states of consciousness, we can access these versions of ourselves and learn from their experiences. Interestingly, modern science is beginning to flirt with these ideas. Quantum mechanics suggests that multiple realities can coexist, each diverging based on small choices or microscopic events. The concept of parallel universes, proposed in the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, leads us to the conclusion that there may be countless versions of us, living slightly different lives. If this hypothesis is true, then the inevitable question arises: can these versions of us communicate with us? Many spiritual traditions say they can. Lucid dreams, sudden intuitions, and synchronistic events may be subtle ways in which this communication takes place. But how do you recognize these signs? How do you know when a version of yourself is trying to send you a message? In the next few moments, we'll explore these signs in depth and reveal how you can tell when something or someone very familiar is trying to get your attention from the other side of reality. Imagine that reality is a vast ocean, and each version of you is like a drop within this vast sea of possibilities. Sometimes these drops touch, overlap, and small fragments of information escape from one universe to another. But how do these messages reach you? How do you know that a you from another reality is trying to communicate? The most common first sign comes through vivid and lucid dreams. How many times have you had a dream so real that upon waking you felt that it was not just your imagination? Perhaps you saw yourself in another life, in another city, or even making decisions that seemed completely natural, but that never happened in your reality. Some spiritual traditions believe that dreams are interdimensional portals, allowing parallel versions of yourself to connect for brief moments. Another clue is unexplained synchronicities, events that seem coincidental but carry a deep symbolic weight. Have you ever thought of someone and seconds later they sent you a message? Have you ever felt an intense connection with someone you've just met, as if you've experienced something together before? Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, described synchronicity as a manifestation of the collective unconscious. But what if, instead, it's an echo from another version of you, trying to alert you to something you've already experienced in another timeline? And then there's the phenomenon of déjà vu, that uncanny feeling that you've lived through that exact moment before. Conventional science suggests that it could be a memory error, but what if it's more than that? What if it's a fragment of an experience lived by a version of you in a parallel universe that somehow managed to cross over into your consciousness? Communication between realities may not be direct, but the signals are everywhere. The moment we start to notice these little glitches in reality, we begin to understand that the fabric of the universe is much more malleable than we imagine. But how do these messages happen? What makes a version of you suddenly want to connect with you? If parallel versions of ourselves can communicate, the inevitable question is, why? What are they trying to tell us? To understand this, we need to look at the patterns of when and how these signals appear. Many spiritual accounts suggest that these messages come at times of great personal transition, when we are about to make a major decision, when we are facing intense challenges, or when we are on the threshold of a spiritual breakthrough. It may be that a version of you who has already faced a similar situation in another timeline is trying to send you a warning, advice, or alternative direction. Another crucial time when these communications can occur is during near-death experiences, or altered states of consciousness. People who have experienced traumatic events report feeling like they have seen other versions of themselves, that they have understood something profound about their existence, as if they have had a glimpse into their own lives in multiple realities at once. Then there are moments of inexplicable intuition. Have you ever felt a strong pull to follow a different path than usual? Or have you had a sudden feeling that something was about to happen, and it did? Some believe that these intuitions may be echoes of decisions that a version of you made in another reality, the consequences of which have somehow been projected into your timeline. Displaced objects are also an interesting phenomenon. Some people report finding objects they never bought but that seem familiar, or losing something that simply disappears without explanation. What if these small glitches were the result of overlaps between different realities? And then there are, of course, the encounters with strangers who seem to know something about you. It might be a stranger who makes a cryptic comment, gives you unexpected advice, or acts as if they already know you. Some traditions believe that these encounters may be manifestations of versions of you who have found a way to interact with you, even if only for a brief moment. But if these messages are coming from parallel realities, can we learn to recognize them and even foster this connection? The answer may lie in practical techniques that allow us to open our minds and increase our sensitivity to these hidden signals. Now you may be wondering, how can I make this a practical application? If a parallel version of yourself is trying to communicate, how can you increase your sensitivity to perceive these messages? The key is to expand your awareness and develop practices that enhance your subtle perception. Here are some techniques that can help you open this channel of interdimensional communication. The first and most accessible tool is the dream journal. As we have already mentioned, dreams can be portals to other realities, where fragments of parallel lives emerge in symbolic or literal form. Before going to sleep, set the intention to receive messages from your alternate version. When you wake up, immediately write down any details that you remember. Often, important messages appear disguised as metaphors or seemingly unrelated events. Over time, patterns can emerge, revealing valuable insights. Another powerful technique is guided meditation to access parallel realities. During deep states of relaxation, visualize a path that forks before you. Imagine yourself meeting another version of yourself, exchanging information and learning about your experiences. Some people report that, with practice, they can establish vivid dialogues and get answers to important questions in their lives. Synchronicities can also be used as a map to decipher these messages. When you notice repetitive events or meaningful coincidences, stop and think, what might this be trying to tell you? Try keeping a record of these occurrences and look for connections between them. Sometimes the universe whispers in patterns, waiting for us to listen. Another intriguing way to access this hidden knowledge is through automatic writing. Grab a piece of paper, relax your mind, and allow your hand to write freely, without judgment or trying to control. Some people report that this practice can reveal words, phrases, or even messages that seem to come from an intelligence beyond their conscious mind. If you want to go deeper, the practice of retrocausality, a concept explored by some quantum physicists and esotericists, can be fascinating. This means that instead of simply receiving information from other realities, you can begin sending messages to yourself in future or parallel versions. Some traditions suggest that setting clear intentions and affirming your choices out loud can resonate not only in this reality but in others as well. Ultimately, the most important thing is to keep an open mind. The more you accept the possibility that parallel realities coexist, the more receptive you will be to noticing the signs that have always been around you. But remember, recognizing these signs is only the first step. True transformation occurs when you learn to use this knowledge to make better decisions and evolve spiritually. If the idea of parallel realities seems distant and abstract, think again. How many times have you felt that something was inevitable, as if it had already been decided at some level of existence? How many times has life given you clues that seemed like small fragments of a greater truth, hidden beneath the surface of everyday life? Perhaps parallel versions of ourselves are closer than we imagine, trying to warn us, guide us, or share knowledge that can transform our path. Dreams, synchronicities, déjà vu, inexplicable intuitions. These can all be more than just coincidences. They are signs that the universe is much more vast and interconnected than we have been taught to believe. The question now is not whether a parallel version of yourself is trying to communicate, but rather, are you listening? Are you paying attention to the signs? Or are you continuing to ignore the whispers of the universe? Now that you know these signs, how about putting the techniques we have discussed into practice? Start observing your dreams more closely, recording synchronicities, and opening yourself to the possibility that your consciousness can expand far beyond this single timeline. If you like this topic and want to explore the mysteries of the universe and consciousness even further, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any future revelations. And now, I ask you, have you ever had an experience that made you question whether you were receiving a message from another version of yourself? Tell us in the comments, because your story could be the missing piece for many who are searching for answers. The universe is always speaking, you just have to learn to listen.